know we're getting towards the summer. The rumours are abounding. So there's a few players we've got to ask you about. And it's not Isak, even though he's on the screen, people. Don't get me wrong. It's the other player mentioned, Ekitike. Now, you've probably seen, David, the links seem to have really intensified on Ekitike recently in the last week or so. I want to be careful how I phrase this because you don't want to be disparaging in any way. But from obviously how we both know things work behind the scenes, it's fair to say that certain names can be driven, shall we say, behind the scenes to bring them into the light. Is that a fair way of phrasing it?
Yes. I mean, what you're alluding to there is the fact that definitely, and this is not to say it's not true, that Liverpool like him and maybe, I'm sure they're watching him. I could say that categorically, but in terms of how much they like him and whether this is going to turn into a signing that they do, it is worth people knowing that this is being driven quite hard by his people, that they're very keen for people to know that Liverpool are interested in their player. Again, like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's nothing in that. And, right. It doesn't mean that they're not going to try and sign him or whatever this summer. But, clearly on the players' side, there's a keenness to kind of create some sort of bidding war and get that going. So I find that really interesting. It does make me slightly sceptical, and there are other aspects of him as a player that make me kind of sceptical that he's the one that Liverpool would opt for anyway. But yeah, it's an interesting aspect of it. When you think about the way that Liverpool do signings, generally they try and keep it under the radar. They don't tend to deal with agents who are doing this sort of thing, or they at least try and get agents to keep things under wraps. Maybe they're just failing in this case, and you've got a guy you can't kind of keep a lockdown on. But it's just interesting to me. It's getting spoken about quite a lot behind the scenes. It just makes you wonder, I would say.
It's not usually the way Liverpool like to do business, is it? The names to be public and driven that way. So, yeah, just something to consider there, people, at the moment. We'll see if anything develops with that one at all. Another player that, interestingly, has drawn eyes this week, I think it's the clause that's come out. You've probably seen it. That's drawn a lot of attention because Liam Delap's been linked with a lot of clubs, linked with Liverpool recently. But as a few have reported, there seems to be a £40 million release clause or around that mark, which we know where Liverpool's sweet spot sits in this regard. Heard anything on this or think it's possible at all? Because I know this is a name that will divide people.
Yeah, so I can't say I've heard anything regarding this link. And I would say as well, it's kind of early for kind of us to hear too much about it outside of, they'll be watching him. They will be watching him. This is the thing. It's April now. We can confidently say that a young English striker who's putting up decent numbers in the Premier League for a side that's struggling, they'll definitely be watching him. Whether it's going to become anything more than that, like I say, probably too early days to say. But I am... again, another one I'm kind of skeptical about in terms of whether Liverpool would pull the trigger on it, because we spoke off air, didn't we, beforehand? On the surface, I don't think those underlying numbers are that fantastic, and I just think if Liverpool are going to sign a centre forward, it's going to be someone to replace Núñez, who I think will just have a little more production behind them. Will just have a little bit more. That will just look a little bit more ready on the surface, and I just don't know whether Liam Delap is that. I mean, he's the sort of that clause. I imagine a club like Chelsea couldn't possibly ignore that to sign a youngish player who they think might turn into something. But I think Liverpool are just looking for something who's a little bit closer to the finished product than he probably is at the moment. I know there's team effects and the fact he's not. He could be better in a better side, and he could be better full stop because he's very young. But like I said, I still think Liverpool will look to something that is a little bit further along the line than someone like Delap. He just doesn't quite seem there for me.
The other one that's had a link, and someone's put it in the chat there, and Rush is on the far side, Joao Pedro. Now, he's been linked with us and a few this week. The only thing I saw, and you've probably clocked it, with Joao Pedro, Brighton, we know how tough they are to deal with. We know they're cash rich from all their windows. Suggestions that Joao Pedro will be 100 million. I mean, I'm not sure that's the case. It almost feels like Brighton may be laying the ground because all the cards are on their side of the table. But do you think that is possible, maybe even at a lower fee? Do you think he'd be on our radar?
I think he's definitely on Liverpool's radar because he's a player they've liked for a while. So absolutely, he's someone they're keeping an eye on because they liked him when he went to Watford and before that. So yeah, absolutely. But as you say, again, another reason where you can kind of, you just think about it logically, it's very, very hard to see because, Brighton are probably putting that noise out there about 100 million as a kind of starting point for negotiations. I imagine he could be secured for less than that. But less than that will still be kind of 70, 80 million. And I think for someone, again, his level of production is not that high in terms of non-penalty goals. He just doesn't maybe score as much as you would like for someone you're going to spend 80 million on. Again, I just think Liverpool will be looking for someone who's got more potential to score more goals than that. I mean, if they're looking for an out-and-out facilitator, he's very, very good at that. But again, will you spend that kind of money on that, or can you find that elsewhere for cheaper? I would imagine that Liverpool's recruitment staff would feel that they could do that. So again, it's just a link that I think, yes, a player they like, but I don't know whether that will go further. I would say, looking at it now going into the summer, I'd be very, very surprised if anything came of that because of his contractual situation, the fact it's Brighton, the fact that he doesn't score that frequently. I just think Liverpool will want more.
Well, all we can guarantee about the forward line is there's one coming in at least. There's about 87,000 names linked, and you've probably got as much clue as us right now in April who for definite it will be. It's just so hard to say. But one player, I know we've spoken about this, and we'll think Kirkes, people say we have spoken about it. As you said with Joao Pedro and recent stories, almost like it feels like the club are setting a marker. I know you'll have seen this. The Times put out that Bournemouth will only look for a deal around 45 million. Does this almost feel like McAllister a little bit last season? As in, there's an air of inevitability, but also the way the figures now creeping out. Like we said last summer around Kelleher, Sepp van der Berg, Liverpool sort of put figures in stories, i.e., this is the negotiating spot and we'll maybe move from here. Does it have that feel for you?
Yeah, I think Bournemouth clearly are accepting of the fact that he's going to leave this summer, and I think all parties are kind of okay about that, and it's reaching that point of his career there. So that's when you do start to hear those numbers, is when it could be an outrageous one like Joao Pedro, which is effectively to try and push people away, or in this case, a kind of realistic one where you're setting expectations for fans, you're letting other clubs know in that way. And it does. It just feels like this summer's the right one for him to move on. And Bournemouth accept that. They know when they sign these players that the idea is to develop them and make a profit on them. So, 45 million would be a tidy profit for them. But I also think it's a fee whereby it wouldn't kind of scare off Liverpool either. So, this one just feels like, and again, we can be made to look stupid by transfers, but he's definitely a player Liverpool like. They know what the fee is. It's fairly reasonable for someone if he does lock down that position. If he does come and do that for the next 7 or 8 years, then it's not too bad of a fee. Obviously, it's all about whether they are convinced he's the right man or not. But if they are, then they won't shirk away from that. But yeah, all the ingredients to get that deal done are there, aren't they? So it's just kind of wait and see now if that's the one they do. But that could be one that I think could get done early in the summer if Liverpool do it, because in theory, a straightforward one.
Yeah, especially with that transfer window opening on the 1st of June, or transfer window 1, as they're calling it now.
Just a quick one as well, by the way, just to come in, just to bring us back to striker talk, because I realise I'm ruling, in my mind, ruling out Ekitike, ruling out Delap. Yeah, it to me just speaks of why I just would not be that shocked about Kuhn. I mention him all the time, I know, but his numbers are excellent in terms, goal scoring record, non-penalty goals in the Premier League are excellent. He can do that facilitator thing, which Liverpool have looked like they've needed a little bit at times. Your only question mark would be kind of character and some of the kind of stories about him, some of the things he's done this season. But outside of that, he's a guaranteed goal scorer. Can play in that kind of attacking midfield role, can play either side a little bit as well. He's flexible. And he's available for 62 million. That to me just screams Liverpool. Now, again, I'm speculating there. I know, again, he's one who's Liverpool are being attached to him a little bit. That's being pushed a little bit. So I know that categorically. But again, it's not to say that doesn't mean that they're interested as well. And I'd just be fascinated to see what happens there, because I just think he has got a lot of Liverpool about him as a potential signing there. That the way that recruitment staff operates, he would tick an awful lot of boxes. So yeah, just fascinated to see whether he ends up being on the list.
Does seem out of all the ones that, because they all seem distinct, like Pedro almost a 9.5, 10 that drops deep. Isak links, an elite 9, but a sole 9. It does seem Kuhn is almost the best all-rounder, if that makes sense, with his attributes. And at the price, maybe someone will call it a compromise. But yeah, it will be interesting to see where he ends up either way. But I don't like this news. I've got to ask you about it. You'll probably know him better than me, but from what I've heard, Kieran Morrison, a youth player, heralded as quite a big talent in the Irish setup as well, but Liverpool more importantly. Links to Premier League, Championship, only a year left on his deal. Have you heard anything about this? Because all I know that we've got is the club rate him highly, so it's not good talk particularly.
Yeah, I get the. I mean, the interesting thing there is his contract situation, isn't it? And it is interesting that this kind of comes out. I mean, I don't want to be too cynical about it, but I think it's interesting he's in that contract situation, and then you hear him talk about interest from elsewhere, and it's I think clearly kind of a nudge from the players' side to say, let's get this guy signed up. You need to be careful, or you're going to lose him for nothing or for a small development fee or whatever. I think it's just trying to kind of hurry Liverpool along, because the fact is as well, if he was someone they were convinced was going to make it, then maybe they would have him signed up already. I think he is obviously a big talent, and I expect it will maybe go towards him getting signed up and Liverpool handing out that contract, because on the basis of what I've seen of him when he's played, he does look at, looks really bright, and he does look a talent that's worth keeping hold of. So, but just that story is interesting to me. Is kind of, I think it makes the case that maybe from the players' side, they're kind of just trying to get him signed up, trying to get that contract sorted ASAP.
Yeah, and fingers crossed we're not losing a young talent there. And speaking of players maybe coming or going, I have no doubt you clocked this photo, Mo Salah at the Albert Dock, and there was all the reports that, is it something, because there was rumours from various sources that a 2-year deal was close. I think it's been ruled out, hasn't it? There's nothing in this photo. There's no real news, just for anyone thinks there could be at the moment.
Yeah, but I believe he was doing something for AXA, actually. So it was a commercial appearance. So, yeah, unfortunately, nothing to do with the contract. And we kind of see these every few weeks, don't we? Kind of trends, or Van Dijk or Salah pictured somewhere, definitely filming with the LFC TV crew. And then I kind of looked at the picture and I was like, well, I don't know that guy. I never worked with him. So, yeah, it's but people always seem to be convinced it's definitely the LFC TV lot. But yeah, I think hopefully when rather than if they sign the contracts, it'll be they're not going to be going around the Albert Dock doing the announcement video, because clearly a lot of people get onto it. So yeah, I think that's one that they'll do in house and do it quietly, or do it at Mo's Villa as they did last time.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of locations, but the Albert Dock is probably hard to see. And this one, speaking of locations, you probably didn't think I will be showing you a video from a Cadbury's behind the scene event that took place on Thursday night. But just for those who haven't seen it, let's just listen to a quick Q&A from Virgil van Dijk. Just to check, and I'll probably just stop sharing because I don't know if I've done it on my end. Did you get sound on that one, David? It's probably to check. I don't know if that was
I couldn't hear that, but so you may have to give a general vibe of what was said there. I had seen it, yeah.
Just that one. It said literally that the key phrase to sort of button it down. It was a clever question by the guy saying, could we expect anything good in that regard? It's that line that keeps coming out, people. And yeah, a few are saying about sound there. So the key line, there'll be news before the end of the season. I don't know if we'll have to see if it's good or it's bad, was the quote. I don't like this, David. I kind of I don't even like running it down, even say to the end of the season. There'll be news before the end of the season. I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. And he does say, just to be clear, people, I love the club and the club loves me. Those are direct quotes from the video. But at the same time, sound playing now or nothing coming through? No, that way. But yeah, the club love me and I love the club. We just need to get this done now, though, don't we? Surely.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with this, I mean, I'd love, as much as Van Dijk will talk about it from time to time, and same with Mo, I'd love some transparency on it. What's the sticking point then? You know, is the player asking for too much, or is it sticking point on wages or contract length? What is it? I mean, you know, next time we get Virgil in the mix, so maybe we just need to kind of put that one straight to him, because it's all a bit of nonsense really now, isn't it? I mean, why isn't it sorted? That, you know, these things are very hard to kind of understand from the outside, but you know, if they want to give us an insight into it, they want to give us a better idea of why this is happening, why it's taking so long, then maybe everybody involved should speak a little bit more honestly, because it's just frustrating now. Really, it's you know, why is this kind of going on? It's strange that it's still going on. So. Yeah, you just hope, and you know, still confident. I think that Van Dijk will sign, as as he says, he wants to be there. They want him to be there, and I think the same with Mo. Obviously, Trent's a different situation, but you know, it's still ongoing. It's still ongoing. So, yeah, we just wait for news, and yeah, I just wish it was sorted, because I guess we're both tired of talking about it as well.
It's just, of all the things we talk about this, I never thought we'd be talking about a Cadbury's event. Photos down by the Albert Dock, PSG officials in corridors, I think we've had so far, mixed zone comments. I love the club and the club loves me. Well, how about the love just gets together and you sign a contract? It does seem just absolutely mystifying, this whole scenario. It really does. But it looks like before the end of the season, as Virgil van Dijk is telling us, we will hear something.